the kids as adults are looking back at their experience and rewatching the show.
Yeah.
And I think that it's honest. The experience that Danielle was talking about, which she found negative, I was.
Michael, how's it going?
How you doing?
I'm doing well.
Good.
How about you? Where are you at?
I'm okay. I am in a house in Delray Beach, Florida.
It looks great in the background. I love what is that a artwork or painting or you have?
Yeah, it's a painting behind me. I'm in the office where I wrote the movie.
There you go. Well, that's a creative office. I can tell right away from here, even.
Thanks.
So, you know what? I'm curious. I did some research here. Was this film based on like the first thing you ever did called Cheaters back in before I was even a idea or thought born? But you did a TV movie, right, called Cheaters. It seems very similar to the concept of what you have in Maybe I Do.
So it was a stage play. It ran on Broadway.
Okay.
It had Doris Roberts, who you would know from Everyone Loves Raymond. Everybody
That's
loves
right.
Raymond.
Yeah.
And Jack Weston and Lou Jacoby, Rosemary Murphy. The concept is the same, but the person who wrote it was very different, because when I wrote Cheaters, I was about 19 years old. The play went to a dinner theater in Florida, and then it was supposed to run 3 weeks. On week number 17, two guys who were lovely people from New York City came down and said, "Listen, we got bad news and good news." And it's, well, what's the bad news? He said, "We're closing the show." I said, "Why?" He said, "We're taking it to Broadway." So it ran on Broadway about a month, but had a great life in stock and regional and international. And then I had a television career for about 40 years. At the end of the last show I did, my wife said to me, "What's next?" I said, I'm gonna look in a drawer and see what I find. And I was looking through old scripts and old ideas, and I came across the play. And I read it again, and I thought, "Oh boy, this is terrible." It's the point of view of what love and what happens to marriage is from a kid who's 19 years old and doesn't know anything. And I said, what if I rewrote this from the point of view of a 65? I guess I was 65 then. And I came up with the film. It retains, hopefulness from the Emma and Luke Bracey character. Yeah. But from the point of view of the four adults, it's, and I told everybody this, it's not romantic comedy. And of course they need to market it as that. And I'm reading some reviews. I'm reading some reviews that say this isn't a romance and it's not a comedy. That's right. It's not.
I agree. Yes.
Yeah. And what it really is supposed to be is an observation of the trajectory of hope. What happens to hope in a long relationship that is supposed to bring love? And I hope I've done it okay.
I think it's a fascinating concept. You know what I mean? I think it's true to life in a lot of forms. People live with each other, they commit to each other, live with each other for a long time, but life changes, situations change, and that's sort of the reality. And boy, we have high divorce rates in the world. You know what I mean? People sometimes change over the course of being together. And I think it was like an interesting concept here that they see the younger, their kids or offsprings kind of finding it or doing it the right way, but they over time have, gone through trials and tribulations that kind of separate them or kind of drifted them apart. So it's a fascinating concept.
Well, you caught it exactly. As a matter of fact, let's isolate the high divorce rates.
Yeah.
Because you're doomed to fail statistically.
Yeah.
You're doomed to fail. This jets me back in time to the president of ABC, who called me and said, it's the same guy. Once he called me and said, "Over my dead body, are you killing that baby dinosaur?" And
yes.
and then he called me years later and said, "Over my dead body, are you going to marry two 19-year-olds. And I said, you know what? Let's check the divorce rates against your grandparents.
Mhm.
And when they married at 19, the divorce rate was about 24%, I believe it was. And when you marry at 30, it's a coin toss. And I found that so interesting. And it was funny because I said to him, listen, you've got this thing called abc.com. And why don't you run Should Cory and Topanga Be Married? And run it on Sabrina, which was the 8 o'clock show. He said, we'll get 20,000 hits. I said, I think you'll get more. It was 500,000 hits later. It broke abc.com. And unanimously, the audience said, what do you think we're waiting for? And so Teddy called me up and said, could you please marry them in sweeps?
We see outside perspective, right? I mean,
yeah, but it brings us to the movie because I think that the rooting interest of the audience is that this will work, but the gravity of it, the fact that gravity weighs on us, we don't anticipate that. And I hope that the audience thinks what we've done here is honest.
Yeah, I think so. And even kind of the way the film ends, it's sort of in a realistic way, you know? Sometimes you can get things back together and kind of realize where you drifted, and sometimes maybe not, you know, and you kind of are okay with it or have to make peace with it, just the way things are. So I thought that was kind of a true to life also way that you buttoned it up at the end.
Thanks. It's, of course, you know, it's lots of metaphor. You know, the metaphor that we hammer to death in the movie is, you know, Emma, why won't you jump off a cliff with me? And of course, we can't understand this big, wonderful, great looking guy has a chance to marry Emma Roberts. What is his problem?
Right.
And the answer is, his problem is Susan Sarandon. The problem is we are the offshoot of our upbringing.
Totally.
And once the audience begins to understand why he's reticent, when he says to her, how do you marry somebody you love? It's just pathetic. You just feel for this guy. And my thinking is that if we're honest, when Emma and Luke hold hands and close their eyes, and the cliff that they jump off of is one small step off of a wedding altar. And yet we're all in free fall for the rest of our lives. We don't know what's going to come.
Right.
That's the metaphor at the end you're talking about.
And it's so true to life, because you really don't. You know, you can try to work it together, you can try to envision it, but life gets in the way in so many mysterious ways, and you just have to go through it together, see if you can, you know, I heard sometimes a quote someday, it's like, who do you want to like marry, or one of those things, and someone's like, someone I can live with every day, like someone, you know, I mean, just like basically I can get through life with every day. It's like, oh, not how beautiful they are, or you know what they have to offer, it's like all the fun stuff. It was like, no, who I can get through day to day, you know, is who I want to be with. And that's, I think, a very telling quote. You know, it's like through the bad and good, like I just want who I can get through life with.
What you're saying is actually said in the movie, so I'm glad you said it, because Luke, during the vows, the Luke's voiceover is, whatever happens to us, let it happen with you. So he is reconciled that this is the partner he wants to go through every day with. And we can't know what's going to come in 20 years. We can't. I think, you know, when I knew I was in love with my own wife, you know, I love you is the easiest thing in the world to say. I think what you say it by date 3, and then what's the formula here? But it doesn't mean anything. What means something is when you wake up on some cloudy Tuesday and she's still there. Bill Macy says it in the movie. She's the one lying next to you. And it's as quiet as a tiny breeze. That's love. I love this person. I want to be buried next to this person.
It's about going through the mundane things, because life isn't always, fun and, adventurous. It's most of it is quiet moments, boring moments together. It's like, if you want to do that with someone, going through like tons of messy things in life and work and all that stuff, it's like that's who you want to be with, because the adventurous and all the like major moments and exciting things don't happen in a long-term scheme of a marriage or a relationship. It's just it's the everyday thing, everyday sort of activities is what you go through together. So
yeah, no, you've said it beautifully. Most of life is, what do you want to have for dinner?
yeah.
Anything, just sit next to me. And that's it is the mundane. And when you can make the mundane worth having, then you're in love with somebody.
Exactly. I spoke in time on multiple times, and on this film, obviously too. I coined this this kind of nickname for her. It's like love. I mean, it's Death, Taxes, and Emma Roberts finding love in a film. It happens all the time. She's the perfect person for a film like this. She gets a kick out of it whenever I tell her that. But she's so good in a genre of romance and love, and it's cool that she worked with Luke Pryor on A Holiday too. So there's that relationship already built in. But was that an easy choice? I'd imagine it was a pretty easy choice casting her, because she's just kind of the picture of the genre of sort of romance, and I think of her first when I think of the genre.
Well, I'll tell you, what happened was Vincent Newman, who is a producer on this movie, when we were talking about casting, said, what do you think of Emma for this?
Mm-hmm.
I said, I love her. And will she read it? And Vince says, well, I've worked with her, so let me send her the script. We had her answer back in about, 12 hours. Emma said, this dialogue, I've said this dialogue with my friends. This is what all of our aspirations are in this movie. Yeah. And what Emma liked was what was between the lines. She liked that we didn't have the Ferris wheel scene and the win me the stuffed animal scene and why are these people in love. She loved that the assumptions we make, we've seen that enough. It's what's next and what sustains or not the point that two people get to, where we assume all of the romantic comedy has happened. As I've said, I told everybody, I just think, it's got to be marketed as a romantic comedy, but I don't think it is.
Right.
I really do believe that Emma, in this film, and there's a moment I'm thinking of when she doesn't speak, she tilts her head and she just looks at Luke, and she can't understand why he's not where she is. Mm-hmm. It's basically the beginning of the next chapter of her understanding when she arrives at, this doesn't have anything to do with you at all. When she gets that he is the offshoot of his parents. I think that Emma is really thoughtful in this film. No, I think that she is not just driving forward relentlessly towards something. I think she is hitting the head with a brick when he intercepts that bouquet. I think what better way is there to tell a person that everything these flowers represent, I'm not ready to give you. And then Emma's got to deal with that. And she took it from there. It was an absolute joy to work with her. And of course, as you say, Emma and Luke have a built-in chemistry that can't be beat. Yeah. And I think the audience enjoys that. I think that you make these pairings that the audience loves, and they'll be very happy to see them together again.
Exactly. No, I think it made sense in so many instances. So it was great. And the full circle thing with Richard Gere too, and connection to Emma. It's just all poetic in a sense too. So that was great casting all around. I've been a fan growing up of your shows that you created. Dinosaurs. I remember that was a show I was terrified of, but I loved it at the same time, because the characters as a kid looked kind of scary, but yet they were so much fun. Boy Meets World. I mean, obviously that was a huge show growing up too. So it's like you were part of a lot of people's youth too, especially like mine, which is it's great. I'm curious though, were you made aware of Danielle Fishel's sort of the podcast that happened? I'm curious what were your thoughts on it too, because I tie in that show with you, and I'm just curious if you were made aware of what was said, and kind of your thoughts if you had any.
Yeah. I I think that it's great that the kids as adults are looking back at their experience and rewatching the show.
Yeah.
And I think that it's honest. The experience that Danielle was talking about, which she found negative, I was very sorry about that. I was very sorry to hear that those were her thoughts. There was more to that, um, but she doesn't know that there was more to that. She feels that her job was threatened. I believe it was, but it wasn't by me. I was trying to save it, which we did. She saved it. I believed in her. I always believed in her, and I still believe in her. I think it's wonderful what they're doing, but it's a place that I've already been, and I want to go to the next places. My experience with all of them on that set was a lovely, wonderful experience. I've known them since they were 11 and 12 years old, all the way through Ben's announcement that he is going to run for Congress. And that is so natural for Ben because that's who he is. I hope he wins because the contribution that Ben could make, the person I know Ben to be, that's the type of person we need. So I'm very happy for all of my experiences there, and it's something that makes me sad if anybody had a bad time. But I think that in retrospect, when everybody looks at the entire process, everybody came out pretty well.
Exactly. And it's something I kind of like think about this as like coaching in sports. Sometimes you try to inspire in a sense by trying to you see someone's potential and you want to get the best out of them. What I mean too. So it's like I see sometimes, like in sports, like a coach pushes a player sometimes to be the best they can. And then they sort of realize after years, like, wow, he made me go to another level in a sense that maybe I wouldn't myself. But yeah, it's a big picture thing, but it's interesting to kind of hear that. And I appreciate you sharing your side of it too. So that's great.
Sure. No, Danielle's a force of nature.
Oh,
Danielle
no
is
question.
Eminently talented, and they all were. I think that to wrap that up, Boy Meets World is a show that ran for a good long time and then never came off of television.
Right.
And it's about to celebrate its 30-year anniversary. So in the end, we must have done something right. And there's a story about Boy Meets World that I tell all the time, and it sums up my feelings about the show, which is how we touch people in ways that we never expect. I was walking in Los Angeles down Ventura Boulevard, and there was a show we did where Sean's father, Chet Hunter, played by his wonderful actor in person, Blake Clark, he was a ne'er-do-well father, and Sean didn't have much of a father or mother. And he comes back to be the high school janitor to spend time with Sean. And Sean is, of course, humiliated. His father is mopping up the school floors. And people are not treating Sean very well about that in school. And in the end, to cut to it, Sean picks up a mop and helps his dad in the last minute of the show. And there's a bonding moment, and it works beautifully. It's one of the few bonding moments between Sean and Chet Hunter. A few years go by, and I'm walking down Ventura Boulevard, and I get a tap on the shoulder, and it's about, I don't know, 35-year-old woman, woman or mid-30s. And I don't recognize her. And she says, I know who you are. And I say, I don't know how. I don't do a lot of on camera. And she says, I know who you are, and I want to thank you. And I said, for what? And she said, my father was a high school janitor. And in that moment, I felt like when you communicate a good idea and you reach so many people, it's not a coincidence that somebody comes back and says, look what you did there. And I think that what I look forward to, what I hope happens is in all of these people, these actors doing this podcast, Danielle and Ryder and Will, that they come to appreciate, I'm sure they already know, how many people they've touched and how the show has resonated with its audience. So I enjoy that they're doing this.
That's cool. And quickly before I wrap it up here, I love the song in this movie, and I saw it. I stayed for the end credits, and Always You. Did you co-write it with Ruth B?
Yeah.
That's so cool. I love that song. It was phenomenal. I was Shazamming on my phone trying to get who did it, and it wasn't coming up. So I waited to the end credits. I saw your name. I was so blown away by that.
It's nice of you to say. It's released today with the movie. Ruth is releasing it as a single. Ruth is one of the magnificent people of this world.
Oh,
her
voice is amazing.
Yeah. Oh no, she's great. And yes, I co-wrote it with her, but let me give her about 85% of that song. There were a couple of ideas and some structural things, and a few of the lyrics belong to me, but we're so proud of that song. People that have seen the movie, everybody unanimously loves this song.
It's a great one. And there's like two different versions. There's like a wedding version, and there's like a more speedier version. It's fantastic. It's a great song. I hope people check it out and stay for the end credits to listen. And it's throughout the film too, so you catch it. But it's the lyrics are fantastic, and the melody, everything. It's a great song and perfectly fitting for this movie. So great job of having her do this and being part of it too. So I just wanted to give you that credit for that.
Oh, great. Thanks a lot. And I'm glad you enjoyed it. I'm glad you enjoyed the movie. It's going to be interesting now. It's in the hands of the audience, and that's where I want anything I do.
Yeah, I think people will enjoy it. I feel like fans of Emma, there's so many great actors in this. And like I said, it's an interesting metaphor for life and relationships. And I think you nailed it on that aspect of it. So very interesting watch. I enjoyed it for sure, Michael. Thanks so much. Thanks so much for taking the time to talk to me, and glad to see you making movies, and hopefully there's more from you on the way. It shows maybe go back to the vault again and come up with some former ideas and inspire you for the next one. So
thank you very much. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you so much, Michael. Let's do it again.
Bye.
Bye-bye.